So moving into this week, we're starting with Miss B. Simone. So we have two questions related to B. Simone, because how could we possibly have just one, right? She's all over the place, on in magazines and etc. A lot going on. But so our first topic of conversation relating to her and our question is regarding the plagiarism of her new book. So, is B. Simone's apology regarding the plagiarism of her new book sincere? So I think we started with Pat on this last one. So, E-Man, I'll throw it to you.
Well, I don't know too much about her writing a book. I did hear about it though. Um, but I tell everyone this, you know how many rappers have ghostwriters, also authors also do have ghostwriters, and they actually, have people write their books and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
for plagiarism to come up, you know, towards anybody who's not an author, because B. Simone is not an author,
Right.
you know, it doesn't shock me about this whole plagiarism thing because I tell everyone's you basically, when they're creating books or doing certain things, they're always, even with when you make rap, they're sampling also too, you know. But the goal is behind, you make sure you cite and document, where you got that information from. I
Mm-hmm.
think somewhat they taught us that in school, but
Absolutely.
Yep, yep.
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like in this case, seemed like B. Simone didn't do that, But I don't blame her, You know, I blame the simple fact is, when and when I wouldn't say I don't want to use the word celebrity, but when you are a public figure, that sounds better. You know, you you see how they're doing one thing, but they're trying to move on to the next thing, and then you meet somebody who's an author, then you think you can do it too, so you just want to just jump in there and just be like, boom, now I'm an author. I feel like it's one of those cases right now, and I'm not taking anything from B. Simone because she's a very respectable, black artist, but I felt she got into something that she didn't really need to get into, I
Right.
mean, I think she's an amazing, comedian. I told you should keep doing what you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the one thing I'm going to say and leave it as that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And I think I'm going to go ahead and speak my piece on this just because it'll elaborate a little further on specifically what happened as far as my understanding. So it's my understanding that her book was intended to be somewhat of a guide to help women manifest their goals, right?
Mhm.
So her intent was to provide people kind of like a brief review of how she feels she was able to manifest her success. So the question of, is B. Simone's apology regarding the plagiarism of her new book sincere? I'm going to have to say, honestly, I don't know. I'm unsure. I don't know much about her other than that she was a cast member on Wild and Out. And, at some point she had a dating show called You're My Boyfriend, which, appears to be like a Flavor of Love kind of show, but I've never
Oh
seen it.
yeah,
So I can't speak on, how real or corny it is. I don't know, to be
I
honest.
heard it was really corny though.
Yeah, I haven't
Not
seen it,
surprised
so
with
I
me.
won't go there because I don't know. But
Yeah.
however, just solely based on the video I've seen, right, which we're going to provide the link to that specific um uh interview that she released, right? I'd say that the benefit of the doubt couldn't hurt here. It does seem like she could have done more, but the benefit of the doubt of whether she was truly in knowledge of plagiarism being used in her book, I would say that should be afforded to her, because B. Simone mentions in the interview she is not an author, like you mentioned, E-Man.
Mhm.
You know, she's not an author. That's not what she typically does. She hired a team to write this novel for her, okay, to assist in the entire process. And she states in the video that she released that, you know, although she hired this team, she did have a responsibility as the leader. I think she actually specifically used the words coach, to make sure that everything was up to par, and she did not do that. You know, she used the words full accountability, that she was taking full accountability for this issue. And she even starts off the video by saying, this is now a legal matter. So for me, when you put those two terms together, and I have to imagine that her legal group would have advised against it, right? Possibly, if she was just simply going to deny everything. But when you look at it from those two perspectives, that she knows that this is a legal matter, but she's still taking the time to say, I take full accountability for the frustration that these women who are making these claims have suffered, I would have to say that it could not hurt to give her the benefit of the doubt as far as the sincerity of this issue. And that's kind of where I am on this particular question.
It's one of those things that you're not trying to get sued, you know. So
Oh
Well,
no.
she's
I,
already getting sued. The
yeah, but
lawsuit is there.
there- there's a big difference getting sued, and there's a big difference is you being sued, and hopefully you don't lose anything after this. You know,
Sure, sure,
I feel like
Right.
for her, she don't want to lose anything, so that's why she's keeping her mouth closed as much as she can. But that's
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
mm,
PAT,
that's
what
just
say you, sir?
I would say my take is, and I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about B Simone. I've read some things. I've looked her up, and I looked up her social media. So based on that, and then based on what you guys just said, yeah, I don't think it hurts to give her the benefit of the doubt. What I will say also is, when you are a celebrity, a public figure, you definitely have to dot your I's and cross your T's with everything. So if you're gonna write a book, or if you're gonna hire somebody else to write a book,
Mm-hmm.
you better make sure that they don't plagiarize.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure that they cite their sources, because
Absolutely.
if you don't, there will be the backlash, as we see now. There will be the backlash of it. In terms of her apology, I I could say that I believe she's being sincere. Of course, we all don't know, because we're not in the room with her while we weren't in the room with
Mm-hmm.
her while she did it, but I
Right.
believe it's sincere, and I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, because I don't think she, or anyone for that matter, who sets out to put out a book, sets out to plagiarize. Nobody writes a book saying, yo, I'm gonna just take this shit right out of somebody else's book and put it in mine, and not cite where it came from. I highly doubt anybody goes into these projects with that line of thinking. So we could just chalk it up to the fact that it might have been a mistake, and she's sincerely sorry for it. That's my take on that.
No, I agree with you there. And I think you made some very important points. You know, at the end of the day, she did have a responsibility to make sure that her team was not committing plagiarism. I definitely agree with you there. At the end of the day, it boils back down to accountability, which you all know is one of my favorite subjects, right? Because I think the world is sincerely lacking people who have strong convictions and will uphold, their individual accountability in a lot of different ways. And I think in this particular example, she definitely had a responsibility to make sure that that creative team was not only adhering to, plagiarism laws, but that speaks to the direction she wanted the book to go. That tells me or makes me feel like she had very little involvement, which is contradictory to her whole reason for creating the book, which was that she wanted to, guide women on manifesting their goals and successes. It's like you can't have it both ways. Yes, I'm very passionate about this, but not passionate enough to know what the content of the book was. That for me, I agree with you from that aspect. And I think that you both touched on great points there. And I would say, while we're on the subject of Miss Simone, our second question is, does B. Simone's stance about Black women's standards being too high in relationships have any credence? So PAT, I think we'll start with you on this one.
All right. And this is one of those subjects where I don't even know if I don't know if there's a right answer or a wrong answer.
I agree.
But it's just one of those things. So I watched her video and I heard what she said. I've also looked it up online to get a little bit more insight information, and I actually read what she said. To be honest, I don't see what the big issue is. To me, what she said was true, because there are not just Black women, but I mean, since we're gonna focus on Black women, there are some Black women out there who they have these high standards that not necessarily, I mean, it's not bad to have high standards. Let me say it like this. They have a long list of what they look for in a man. Is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. The only thing I would say to that is, if you have this long list, this laundry list of all the things that you want in a man, you need to make sure that you are able to match what is on that list. If there is 50 things on that list, you better make sure that you match those 50 things, because you can't have a list of 50 things that you want in a man and then be or match up to 20 of them. That doesn't make sense. You have to be able to match whatever you have on that list. If you want this high value man, we're gonna put that term out there. That term's already been out there, and that's actually a term that's been thrown around out here in these social media streets, out here in the matrix, high value man. So if you're looking for a high value man, you better be a high value woman. I'm just gonna put it straight like that. You can't look for or expect to get a high value man and be a low value woman. It just doesn't work like that. You are what you attract. So if for example, if you are a low value woman, then guess what? You are going to attract low value men. It's that simple. So what B. Simone said, to me, I don't see the problem in it. I don't see what the issue really is for people to make it such a big deal to quote unquote cancel her or make her part of cancel culture. I don't see it, because what she said honestly is not even original. Other people have said it before. They've said what she said, where you know, if
True.
you have this grocery list, this laundry list of things that you're looking for in a man, you better match what's on that list. So
Mm-hmm.
my whole thing is I don't see the issue with it, but of
Mm-hmm.
course other people do.
Gotcha.
You know.
Gotcha. Okay. E-man, let's say you, sir.
All right. So, what B Simone said, is definitely true. And, PAT touched on a whole lot of things that are true. And those are the things I definitely agree with. But I'm also going to break it down to another different sense and whatnot. To me, B Simone, is that funny chick who not to say baby girl, you know, because I enjoy watching Wild 'N Out, you know, and her little, reality show and whatnot, you being my boyfriend and whatnot, which everyone makes fun of her, because, most people thought, that reality show was corny. But what B. Simone said at that moment, at that time, was so perfect at a time, n- for everyone, especially Black women, to sit down and have a good reevaluation of thyself, you know, you know. So you get a chance to see, what am I doing, if I really want this partner. And the thing, and I tell everyone this, a lot of people get mad when I say this, love is very abstract. It's so abstract that you have many different people, you know, who's written books, all right, lectures, you know, giving their side of opinion, men and women, all right, men and women, all right, about this whole thing about love, yeah. And yet, you know, none of it even meets towards the demand of like, where we're at. And what I mean by that is, you know, the whole thing going back to this laundry list. If you look at that laundry list, that's not love. That's more of a lust, you know, because the etymology of love means desire or lust. And I've told several people this that, a desire is different from a lust. And a list is a lust. And you lust about this is what you need for this man, and you have to definitely reciprocate it. You can't reciprocate lust, you know, you know, because it's hard to. And that's been the thing. And us being in society, and most people say, we're in a, European society, because, this is, we are all different people, but we're mostly, there's more different, European hairstylists out there versus, that, us as people, we got to go somewhere different. That means, fellas go somewhere different to get a haircut, women go somewhere different to get their hair, or they have their friends or their moms to do their hair, so on and so forth and whatnot. But if we look at everything and whatnot, these are the issues, that I'm not going to say majority of Black women have, but women also have this issue too. And this is what has been going on. And this is what I told, we need to stop this whole lust thing and whatnot. And people get bad at B. Simone for what she said, but the more people get mad at it because you know that you have that same issue too, and you need to work on it. And that's what many of them don't do. That's where that anger kicks in and whatnot. And that's when
I agree.
jealousy kicks in, because my friend has this and I don't
Mm-hmm.
have this. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad B. Simone said it because, not because she's some, a low public figure, but many Black women won't say that. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
issue, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the big issue. And this is the thing why I enjoy listening to other, you know, public figures, especially women, because I want to get their insight of what's going on, especially many Black women. But we don't get that. And you wonder why Black women are the way they are. And this is
Mm-hmm.
the issues that we need to get away from. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but But
Okay.
that's just, my take, on this situation. And
Oh,
I'm 100% behind B Simone for what she said. And y'all can get, like, anybody who's listening, if you get mad, that's fine, that's cool with you. But I tell people, women especially, but keep working on yourself to be a better person. And that's how
hmm.
I'm ending at this moment.
Okay. Okay. So this one is going to be a little tough for a lot of people, as far as my answer is concerned, because I'm going to speak this truth from a Black woman perspective. And, I know just like any subject, there are going to be some who agree with me and some who don't. But I agree with Pat's general consensus that for me, it is hard to put a specific answer to this. So I'm going to say that it partially has credence because, yes, Black women should have standards about their spouse, but so should everyone. I think the entire idea that you should not have a certain level of standards or a certain level of expectations unless you can meet that is completely individual to every couple situation. Because there could be a couple out there where they are 100% comfortable with traditional ideologies, right? Where the man goes out, has a job, works, pay the bills, and etc. And the woman stays home and births the children and cultivates the family life and etc. And it could be that there is a man out there looking for a woman who's willing to do that, and a woman out there looking for a man who's willing to do that. I think when it comes to love in general, there is no way to apply such blanket ideologies across everyone. You can't do it. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Spanish, Asian, doesn't matter your ethnicity, your race, your religion. The two individual people in that relationship have to decide what best suits their relationship. I have in my own past, and this is in no way to be braggadocious, but I have in the past always been a little more financially stable than the men that I have been in relationships with. And a lot of women that I know would look at me and say, why did you even give them, a second thought? Why did you even pursue the relationship or move forward with the relationship? And I would say, because even though in that moment, they were not as financially comfortable as I was, that wasn't the sole factor for my decision to move on with the relationship. There were multiple variables that had to be considered, right? There were, there's obstacles in any relationship, and it's the responsibility of the two involved parties to determine what they're willing to accept and what they aren't. B. Simone's comment for me seems to indicate that generally Black women just have these ridiculous expectations for men that most of them can't meet. That's for me, that's somewhat what I took from it. And I think she missed an integral part of it. Black women traditionally in society have been an underdog in many ways for many years. 50 years ago, we weren't getting the best jobs. We weren't getting the best opportunities, whether we matched the credentials of our competition or not, right? That's first of all, as a woman, add on that a Black woman. So I think now that we have overcome such large hurdles from that perspective, we're now in the position where we're able to say, what is it that I really want? Not what I have to accept, right? Because for a long time, to survive the societal restrictions that were put on us, right? Like the government's blatant, and I'm going to say this comfortably, their blatant agenda to separate Black families, right? I believe that that exists in my heart. I
That's true.
believe that.
That is true. That is
Okay,
true.
their blatant agenda to separate Black families and etc. that Black women have had to deal with in the past. We had to accept certain things. You know, grandma was with granddaddy, even though granddaddy had 5 children out of wedlock, etc. But grandma didn't have many options to leave that situation. I think what B. Simone failed to do in this statement was recognize those restrictions, recognize those blockers that Black women have overcome and apply a little understanding from that perspective. Is her general consensus correct? Absolutely. But it's correct for everyone, not just for Black women, for everyone. 2 individuals need to decide together what their stipulations are for being in a loving relationship with their partner. And I think her statement was way too blanketed, which you cannot apply to love, regardless of whether it's Black love, white love, whatever you want to label it. And so my issue with that is make sure that you are providing an opinion that is inclusive of all the variables if you're going to make a blanket statement. That's a scientific responsibility, right? If you're going to say this rule applies to all Black people, then you have to consider all the variables that all Black people face. If you're going to say this statement applies to all Black women, then you have to consider all the variables that all Black women face.
That's very interesting. And it's so crazy.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Miss Naya Angel. Now, I remember you were saying, about, you being much more highly stable, towards
Mm-hmm.
being financially stable, Black women now having money. And yes, a lot of Black women, are getting higher positions. And also, Black women are now also getting things towards is, businesses and, more infrastructure for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, the question
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to present is basically, you know, do you feel that there is a emasculation towards
Mm-hmm.
women who are financially do you feel like this is a burden that's been, wouldn't say hindering Black men or indigenous men, but do you feel, this is a key thing have they done to destroy, you know, you know, what we call Black love, you know?
Hmm. So just to make sure I understand your question, you're asking, do I feel like Black women now having a larger spectrum of opportunities for financial stability that we hadn't have in the past, is that a tool being used towards the de-emasculation of Black men?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that I think it is not necessarily a tool, but a result of. I think and I'm going to use this term for lack of a better one, but I think the consequence of, and I'll tell you why I chose that word. I think the consequence of Black women finally having opportunities that were not always available to us is that there is an illusion of emasculation in society for Black men. Because I happen to now be in a relationship where I am 100% more comfortable in my role than my prior relationships. And when I say more comfortable in my role, I mean that in 2 ways. One, more comfortable in my role in my career, in my position, being a department head in a finance department, okay? And 2, my role in my relationship, because prior to this relationship, I always felt an overwhelming sense of quieting down my accomplishments to not offend my partner. Whereas the relationship I am in now, it is the complete opposite. It is healthy. We are both pursuing both separate businesses and joint businesses. We are both amassing
Congratulations.
wealth together.
That's great.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. And so, that's a great question, man, because do I think that it is absolutely possible that that is a consequence of what has occurred with Black women now having these opportunities? Absolutely. But I think the individuals in the relationship had to establish with each other, what does that mean, right? Knowing that, hey, what I want from my spouse is success, not only for them as an individual, but us as a couple, as a unit, then that's simply a matter of whether that male will allow himself to feel emasculated. And so I think that's couple per couple.
Absolutely.
Thank you for answering my question. And the
Sure.
reason why I asked this question, because, our host is a Black woman. And I feel me asking this question, I feel like we have sparked something so that we can, you know, better more and more women,
Mm-hmm.
not just Black women, but women as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate you just answering that question.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Pat, did you have anything you wanted to add before we wrap up the subject, sir?
Not really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely you just killing it today.
Thank you. I did my homework today, fellas.
I know. I can't even. I'm sitting over here like, damn. Like I'm over here. I'm like, man, I don't think I'm doing a good job today. But she is killing it.
Yeah, she killing
Everything.
it.
I can't say anything else.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate this though. That
Definitely.
we're able to have these open and honest and truthful conversations with each other. That's the point of this podcast, is that, we were keeping it real with each other, 100 with each other, whatever you want to call it, on every subject we were discussing, just, on general Facebook posts. So
Right.
that's what you're going to get when you come here. You're going to get the real.
The only brief thing I will add before we get to the next topic is based on what B. Simone said, what I would say since we're speaking of Black women, we'll just say Black women. What I will say to my sisters out there is, if you want a king, then just remember that a king needs a queen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't basically you can't necessarily be a peasant, or you can't be, and peasant might not be the right term to use, but you can't
I like that term.
you can't not be a queen and expect to get a king.
Right.
Kings get with queens. So if you are a queen, a true queen, you will get a king.
Exactly.
So I'll just put it like that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, you got to elevate, man. I agree completely.